Hey everybody, I'm Eve Batey with the San Francisco Appeal, and this is, I think we're going to call it SFUs unless someone has a better idea.
Send it in.
SFUs.
Who are you?
My name is Brock Keeling. I'm editor of SFist. Hi.
And joining us today we have Melissa Griffin, who does more things than we can count. What do you do, Melissa?
I write for my website and also for The Examiner.
And what's your website?
TheSweetMelissa.com. Thank you for asking.
And she writes for the Real Examiner, not the crazy person one on the other site.
Yeah.
One where it's just like everybody.
Wherever it's like the Elvis Examiner and the Cat Examiner.
I'm a fan of the Zombie Examiner.
Oh, hey, that's a good one.
I respect the Zombie Examiner.
The most popular one, hands down, every time you go on, they give you all the stats, and the one that's always the most popular is the Washington, D.C. Gun Rights Examiner. Is always like number one. So
we forget that some of those examiners are for papers where the cities are not like ours.
Right, exactly. They don't have a lot of outlets, I guess. But yeah.
Speaking of cities that are like ours, we are here to talk about the election yesterday that everybody voted in because it was so fun. No, really, everybody did not vote in it. But Melissa knows all about this stuff way more than me or Brock. So what we're going to do is ask Melissa questions, and then Brock and I are going to make stupid jokes while she talks.
Yay!
So
it's like home.
I know, right? Totally. That's the plan. That's the plan. Except at home, Brock and I would get sent to the corner, and here, no one's putting us in the corner. So, Brock, shall we start with A and move our way down?
Yes.
And hey, did you vote?
Yes, I did.
Look at that. Do you see that?
There's proof.
I don't have one of those things.
It's trilingual. Anyway, let's start.
So let's start with A, which is establish a 2-year budget cycle, adopt a 5-year financial plan. I don't know, Melissa. It's already hard. It's already too hard.
People are already asleep.
I'm like, Barbie, math is hard, except not pretty.
Why don't you break it down?
So yeah, please explain A to us.
Okay, basically what happened is earlier in the year, in March, the mayor asked the comptroller's office to do a big audit and figure out ways we could structurally change the way we do our budget so that we don't keep running into these massive deficits and having to make these horrendous mid-year cuts every year. So out of that came a really nice study that outlined a bunch of different things that we should be doing to fix our budget system. And then from that, we took about the 4 least effective things, shoved them into Prop A.
I'd like to point out that this is my dieting strategy.
Yeah, and David Chu actually is the person who shepherded this through committees, and it's very watered down. We're going on a 2-year budget cycle, and there's a 5-year plan, and anyway.
Oh my God! Even you were making this boring.
I know. Sorry, even I was pretty bored by the whole thing. But just trust me, it's fine. You did a good thing.
Are we losing money? Are we saving money? I mean,
you're supposed to be supposedly saving money. Supposedly, it's going to help us plan better for the future, so that every year, basically, what happens is every year, everyone just kind of goes on this mad dash to spend all the money we have.
Isn't that totally true? Everyone seems surprised every year.
They're like, oh my God, we have no more money.
Yeah, it's December. What?
Yeah, but things like grant money and things like that we use for ongoing expenses, it creates problems because you hire people who then you either have to fire the next year or find a new source of income a new source of revenue to pay them. So we have a lot of structural problems, and again, this is not great. It's not the huge fix that we need to make our budget better, but it's not bad. It'll be fun and good. You did a good thing. A bunch of people passed it. There was no opposition, and that's why. I
have a question.
Yeah.
When you said the thing about the spending spree at the end, I started wondering: are we sort of do we have like a use it or lose it attitude here? Do we feel like if we don't spend all that money at the end of the year, then we're not going to get it approved in our budget for the next year?
Potentially. I mean, every department head really is the one who submits the money for the next year, and obviously, if you do a good job and you save a bunch of money, then you might be rewarded the next year by just not getting as much awarded to you in the budget. So that's certainly an issue.
We call that a punishment for excellence.
Yes. Well, there's some sort of matrix for it, I'm sure.
Pills, sunglasses, guns.
I don't remember voting on this. But next we want to talk about it. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just saying it's fine. It's not bad. It's not great. It's whatever.
Well, next we want to talk about AIDS. Supervisor AIDS.
Not the diet pill or the gay disease.
Proposition B, and I asked you about this earlier. And tell us a little bit about it. Every year or every election year we vote on this, right?
Pretty much, actually. So basically what's in the charter right now is a provision that says that all supervisors get 2 full-time staff. No more, no less. And what this does is sort of just remove the whole reference to that's in the charter. And so from now on, all supervisor staffing is subject to the budget process, and the supervisors just kind of get to sort of make it up as they go, as opposed to having it dictated in the charter. Now, what's interesting here is this actually passed because it's actually, this is the 4th time we voted on it in San Francisco since 2000, and it fails every time, basically. So,
So how did this happen? Did people just think, oh, screw it, I'm tired of seeing this thing, or what?
Honestly, I don't know. Well, I can tell you this. As opposed to other elections, there was no organized opposition to this one this time.
Okay.
It was put on this kind of quiet, off-year election ballot this time, so there was really nobody organized to really say this is really stupid. So I think that's part of the reason is no one heard anything bad about it, and so people thought, oh,
Where
okay,
were you?
fine.
Did you say anything bad about it?
No, hey, I love I love AIDS. I love you, board AIDS. You help me every day.
I'm not even going to go.
It's great.
It's going.
Ellsberg's AIDS, he was great last night. He gave me free drink tickets, so
See, there you go.
it's my condition today is a little off. But, thank you, Alex.
So the question that I asked you when we were talking about this before is that it seems like since it's part of the budget process, then it comes down to the soups who typically are the ones who sort of call foul on budgetary things that they think are iffy. So can we count on them to police themselves when it comes to this?
I don't think so. I honestly, I don't trust them at all to not be sketchy. I don't trust them at all to not.
You heard it here.
I'm sorry, to not give some people more AIDS than they give others, and to just sort of play with this like they do other things. So no,
Sorry, I'm 12.
I don't trust them at all, and that's actually why I voted against this. Again, as much as I love the AIDS, it's not them. It's the board that I'm worried about making this issue into over politicizing this issue of staffing in their offices. So, but I think as a result of that, there are going to be a lot of people paying very close attention. This could very much be back on a different ballot, reversing ourselves if they do start getting
Some sort of anti-AIDS measure.
Anti-AIDS.
Who will do the
That
supervisor's
passed.
jobs without AIDS?
Nice. That's good.
Anyway, why don't we go on to C?
No, C is a Candlestick Park
There's
one.
only 5 of these.
Yeah, I know. So Candlestick Park, and naming it, I thought Candlestick Park was Monster Park. I thought that was already done. Why are we worrying
They
about
play
this again?
football there.
Well, actually, technically,
Kind of.
legally, it is Monster Park. But okay, so right
Are those
now,
monsters even around anymore?
yeah, I don't even know.
No,
I don't know.
it's not.
I don't know. Job seekers, is that still a viable option? Brock, is it?
That
Monster,
itself.
Monster, you say Monster Cable, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably like Earthlink or Lycos.
No,
Lycos.
it's cable, like actual like hard cable things.
What are you doing?
Do that again.
Well, I don't know what I was just doing there, but I worked at this PR agency where we pitched them, and I had to learn all about it. And yeah, it's actually like the things you plug your stereo in with, and they're really expensive, which is why they had money to name Candlestick Park.
Well, actually, so their contract for the naming rights actually expired earlier this year. Last year.
Oh, that's why the sign changed.
Well, that's why the sign changed. But also, so when they were negotiating this contract with the city, the Board of Supervisors went out and passed this ordinance saying, we don't care who you sell it to, it can't actually be known as anything except Candlestick Park. You can pretty much guess who was behind this, by the way. It can't be known as anything besides
4
Candlestick
letters, starts
Park.
with D, ends with Y.
Yeah, and it goes on the ballot. It gets passed. I think it's 2002. It gets passed by the voters. And so basically, what this does. So my point is, while it was called Monster Park, it actually couldn't be known as anything other than Candlestick Park. So what this does is take away that requirement that it be known as Candlestick Park and allows whomever buys the naming rights this time to actually call it Monster Park or Slappy's Bait Shop
I like
Park
that.
or Bail Bonds Park.
I
or
can't
whatever.
believe we had to vote on this. This is the stupidest thing ever.
Well, that's
Well, I'm from Indiana, where the Hoosier Dome's been called like something else like every year for the last like 15 years. So.
Well, and some people just say, look, a lot of people who, and again, this passed. So I think a lot of people say, look, it'll bring in money, and the truth is, in the hearts and minds of San Franciscans, it'll always be a Candlestick Park.
Well, let's stop talking about sports. D was the big one. Now, D would have brought magical, blinky, beautiful lights on Mid-Market. What happened?
It would have been like Muppets Take
Yeah, it would
Manhattan.
have been beautiful.
Well, actually, when you talk about this, this is the one ballot measure that actually had some pretty decently organized
Yeah, yeah.
opposition.
Yeah.
I mean, it had some great,
Was
great
it one of the
backers.
few interesting things?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it had some really good backers, but it also had some organized opposition. So what happened here, and I think the big issue, and I want to say this, I think we'll see something on the ballot again about this because everyone agrees that this area of the city between 5th and 7th Streets on Market is a fiasco, and revitalizing it and getting people to move there and have businesses there and shop there is really important. The problem with Prop D is it was a mess. The way it was written was a fiasco. It gave pretty much power to control what sign company you use, what your sign said, how big it was, to this particular benefit district organization. And the benefit organization is made up of like local merchants and property owners. So you're given this little cabal of people.
It seemed like it was
a
very
lot of
possible
power.
for corruption. Not that I'm saying that anyone who was involved in it, but it seemed like the potential was really there.
Absolutely. And the problem is the way it was written. It was, you know, when you watch like, you know, Tony Little is like, go on the Gazelle. You can lose up to 20 pounds. And you're like, up to 20 pounds. No, you're not losing 20 pounds. So the way it was written, it's like everything was like you could spend up to 5% on kids. And you're like, yeah, but we know you could spend up to whatever, you know, but it was the way it was written was really sketchy, and it was a lot of phrases like that as opposed to mandatory minimums. It was a lot of ceilings and no floors on the kind of fancy, charitable things that they were going to be spending things on. So there was a lot of room for corruption.
Well, the thing that always confused me is how do we make the connection from this sketchy part of market, which I don't think anyone's debating, and ads making it less sketchy?
I agree. I mean, that's what I wrote. Is look, lighting up this area
Literally
without
lights, just
anything
lights.
else. Like literally, just put
It
a
was
bunch of
literally
lights.
just
It's not going to make it's not going to make people go away. And
I mean,
people
Times
don't go away-
Square was really sketchy for a long time, and it wasn't because of the lights.
Exactly.
That was what changed things. You know?
Exactly. So I agree. I think people said, you know, we appreciate this, but I think it was overbilled as a way to sort of fix everything in the area. When in reality, even if it weren't corrupt, even if it in the best executed manner, it still wasn't really going to accomplish what.
So you think
people
we'll
thought.
we'll see those kinds of signs there at some point?
Well, I think at some point they're going to, if they can bring it out of the community benefits district, if they can put it back in the planning department and let the city have more oversight and do some other things with it. I think that there's a real potential there. I think people want to vote for this. But once they got wind of the details, they had to say no because it's too sketchy. But I am with you. I want to do something in the area.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody doesn't, but I think that
So that was interesting. That was going to be a tough one. Right to the end, the polls were really sort of back and forth on that.
And we're at the stage in the game where we know that the election results are pretty definite.
Right.
Okay. So
it's
not going to be a sudden edu at the last second.
Well, you never. Well, that's true. I don't think so. I think the numbers don't work. That won't save them. But you know.
Okay. And so the last one we have is E, which I think I completely forgot about, but until we started talking about it here. And so that's the one that's like, general advertising signs on street furniture, by which they mean like bus shelters and things like that. So my question for you is, why are we trying to take money away from Muni?
Well, actually, the contracts that Muni has with advertisers are kind of grandfathered in. So this actually won't prevent future contracts. This actually prevents future contracts. It doesn't affect the ads that we already have in place.
But so when Muni's contract with Clear Channel, because I think it's Clear Channel, if it's not, I apologize, runs out, then does that mean they can't renegotiate, or it's just a done deal?
They'll be able to renegotiate, but they'll be limited to the size and manner of the ads that they already have. So my point is, if you have a particular sign that says, yay, Clear Channel, you're sort of right. So it's like it's this big, and I'm scientific about this. Say it's this big. When you go to re-up the contract, you're sort of you can't negotiate for a sign that's this big. It has to sort of remain under the same parameters as the prior one. So it's just meant to not extend or not expand advertising as they go. But basically, Jake McGoldrick went to England and he looked around and he said, "Wow, there aren't as many ads on bus stops." And then he came back and put this on the ballot, and that's kind of how it all happened.
I mean, don't you think it's like funny though that
Really?
we have
It was
that
just a
it's like
little
they're
trick.
right next to each other, and one's like more ads and one's like less ads?
That's true. It's a little sketchy, but at the same time, I mean, this was kind of all you could do is a prospective. I mean, because people already have contracts putting stuff that's there in place, and the city depends heavily on that revenue. It's just something going forward. I thought it was interesting that the city voted to rename the ballpark, but to stop ads on bus stops. So you can do whatever you want with our publicly owned park, but don't put any more ads on our bus stops. So that was very interesting.
Speaking of voting in the city, there was a low turnout this.
We're asking this because
Someone's
the
asked.
commenter Roller. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, but is that an I? No, it's an L. Anyway,
He's asking about voter apathy. Voting's boring.
uninteresting measures, etc. How can this affect future ballot measure efforts?
How does the low voter turnout?
Yeah. So the questions: would you talk a little bit about how the low turnout, voter apathy, uninteresting measures, etc., from this election could affect future ballot measure efforts? Have more interesting ballot measures.
I think there's an argument to limit in the future. I think there needs to be some structural changes. And I would love to see a charter amendment making it more difficult to put measures on the ballot. We already have Proposition C, which requires any of the supervisors to have a public hearing before they put it on the ballot. But there's nothing to prohibit people from collecting signatures and putting things directly on the ballot. I would love to see some more reform there because I think people are fed up with, you have 15% of the population basically dictating policy for the entire city. Now, mind you, more people should have just come out. But at the same time, I think people, in retrospect, are really frustrated with the size and scope of our charter and our ordinances because they keep getting manipulated. It's just, it's on a local scale what we see in California on a bigger scale. But I think it's an excellent point.
I guess since we have you for one last minute, I just want to ask you about the election in Maine, which none of us voted in, but still, how does the election in Maine and their new ban on same-sex marriage, how can that impact Proposition 8 and what's going on in California?
Well, I think that it certainly impacts this issue of 2010 versus 2012. Yeah. I think a lot of people in California gave resources to the Maine effort, and I'm concerned that at some point people are not going to want to give any more to these public referendum efforts because they have failed 100% of the time. Whenever gay marriage is put to voters, it is voted down. However you want to put it in terms of the proposition, it always goes down. My mom's here, and I was going to say, I wonder if people are going to have a little bit of donor fatigue when it comes to these public referendums, and if it's not going to make the pro-gay marriage people, I include myself, want to pursue either a judiciary sort of route, a judicial route, or put more pressure on the Obama administration to just sort of put us all out of our misery and make it a different federal law.
So if you ran the campaign to smash the opposition to same-sex marriage, what would your next step be?
My next step would be I would rather lobby the Obama administration, frankly, because
because you want to talk to Obama.
Basically, so I can hang out. I do love him.
On the line,
Obama,
right?
I can keep a secret. Seriously, me. No, I love him. No, and not just to chat with him. Yeah, and Michelle too. Hey, we're all open-minded here. And so, no, I would love to, but I think that would be a one good way to go because going through the judicial system is fractured. It's different in different districts. It's going to create differing outcomes, and it's going to take a lot of years and a lot of money to do, as opposed to just going to one person and saying, going to a singular administration that can actually have an effect on the entire country. That would be my advice, but you never know.
You never know. Well, thank you so much for coming today, Melissa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Brock's going to feel better next week, and he's going to talk more.
Very much. Thank you. Right. We want to wish Gavin Newsom cocoa butter dreams in Hawaii.
That's right, Gavin. We know you're probably watching us from your hotel suite right now. And get me a T-shirt that says Maui. I'll take it.
Better luck next time.
Better luck this time. All right. Thanks from Brock with SFS.
Brock from SFS, thank you.
From the San Francisco Appeal and from
Sweet
Melissa. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.